Council to order. Council just came back from closed session. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Council's in closed session this evening on public employee performance evaluation. There's no action to report.
Thank you. We will adjourn from closed session and open the regular City Council meeting. Call roll, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Here. Councilmember Hewer? Here. Councilmember Campion? Councilmember Powers? Here. Mayor Cruz?
Here. Okay. Give me a second to get set up. All rise please for a silent prayer, followed by the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get the video statement, please?
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. Tonight's meeting will air Friday, June 10th at 9 a.m. and Saturday, June 11th at 9 a.m. It is being closed captioned and will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch.
Thank you. Do we have any agenda approvals, additions, and/or deletions?
Mayor, I would like to request that we move item 7 up to after consent calendar. We have a speaker who has a family emergency that would like to speak before, if possible.
Okay, that's item K7. Council okay with that? Okay, we will move K7 immediately after consent. We have no presentation, so we'll move right into public comment.
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the clerk.
And we have one speaker sheet, Laurel Coins.
Good evening. My name is Laurel Goins. I'm the food service supervisor at Galt Elementary School District. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak before you this evening. I wanted to come to the City Council and let you guys know about our summer feeding program that we are launching this year. It is a free food program for all children in the Galt area. Actually, any area, so if any kids are wandering by, they can come and eat too. It is available during the entire summer at most of our sites, some specifically during the month of July. We have dropped off information here in the city offices and around town, so you'll probably see some posters and/or flyers. It is a way for us to nutritionally support the children in need in our area, and any child 18 and under can come and participate. The opening day is June 20th at Fairside Elementary, and breakfast will be served and lunch, and any child can come and get free meals during that time. I wanted to come and speak this evening about it because I think it's important for not only our City Council members to know, so if anyone asks any questions when they're out and about and see our information, but also for the public in general to know that these services are out there and available for the children in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like a wonderful.
Children, is that under the age 18 or K through 6, or what are we looking at? Preschool? I mean, when you say children, is there?
It's any child 18 and under. So if they're 18, today, and their 19th birthday is tomorrow. Today they can eat, tomorrow none for them.
Well, that's all children under the age of 18.
Yes, any child under 18, no names will be taken, no proof of income is needed. Anyone can come from the community. They do not need to be accompanied by an adult. So some of our children in our community, they stay home with their younger siblings while their parents are at work, and we want to make sure that we can continue to nutritionally support them and make sure that they have food available to them during the month that school is closed.
Breakfast and lunch.
Breakfast and lunch at Fair Site and River Oaks, Greer, and McCaffrey. Thank you, that's my assistant there in the back. River Oaks, Greer, and McCaffrey are open for breakfast. The only site that will not be open is Marengo. All of the other school sites are open during the month of July. We also are feeding at Grizzly Hollow Apartments. And if anyone wants to take a nice drive to Thornton to see the cows, you can also eat there 3 days a week too.
Well, before you leave, I just want to say, I know you're committed to good nutrition for our young people, and I appreciate the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, just to clarify again, so there's not lunch, the only place for lunch is at Fair Site?
Lunch will be served at all of our school
all
sites
of them
except Marengo.
Okay.
But breakfast will also be served at Fair Site, Greer, River Oaks, and McCaffrey. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent. Seeing there was nothing pulled, do we have a motion to accept?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Payne and second by Councilmember Hewer. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye?
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Passes 4-0. Okay, we are now moving to item K7, the Galt Community of Character Coalition request for co-sponsorship of the 2016 Galt Heritage Festival.
And Monica, are you presenting this item?
Mayor and City Council. So the Galt Community of Character Coalition requests for co-sponsorship of the 2016 Galt Heritage Festival. It is the recommendation of our department to consider the special event application and request from the Galt Community of Character Coalition to, number one, co-sponsor the 2016 Heritage Festival event that will be held on September 10th, 2016. Number two, waive the rental fee for the use of the Veterans Field, Littleton, and Chibola Community Centers and the Parks and Recreation Meeting Rooms. And number three, approve the usage of the City of Galt equipment and waive the estimated cost listed in the staff report associated with the event. So this event is a local community event and is open to the public. It is sponsored by the Galt Community Character Coalition, and the purpose of the event is to promote education, awareness, and appreciation for the many cultures and vast history that made Galt what it is today. Although it is sponsored by the Galt Community Character Coalition, is not intended to be a fundraiser. Any money after expenses are to be used as seed money for the following year's festival. Are there any questions regarding the request?
Council, any comments? I do have 2 speaker sheets on this.
I'd rather wait till after we hear from the speaker.
Okay. Gail Weber.
And maybe Mr. Roberts. And Mr. Roberts, she's the one who's the emergency.
Good evening, Council. My name is Gail Weber. I'm kind of the chairperson for the Heritage Festival Committee. I had sent out some surveys to people in the community via the website we have going to ask for their opinion on some of the community events and festivals. And I got a couple of 2 really good responses that I would like to read. One of them is about the festivals in general, and it says, to the Galt City Council, I have been a part of this community since 1990. We moved in town Thanksgiving week of that year. Literally a few days later, we had the pleasure of witnessing the magic of the lighting of the night. That memory typifies the spirit of what Galt is all about. The town has a certain charm that is amplified by all of the community events, such as parades, kids events, like the extravaganza. These, in my opinion, are as an unbelievable value to the community. They also help keep this town whole. I have been in business here for 4 years now and can say with 100% certainty that the taxes generated from our citizens staying in town to spend money is significant. The surprise, however, is how much business and tax revenue comes from out of town. A good 30% of our customers come from outside of Galt. These events, without a doubt, help keep dollars in Galt as well as bring in dollars. Thought you should know, this is signed by Kurt Smith of the Velvet Grove. And then I got a survey in today which is specifically about the Heritage Festival. It says the Heritage Festival is a way to embrace all cultures and ways of life in the city of Galt. It shows that the community welcomes all to our great American little town, especially in light of the recently approved 1,400 homes, which will bring many new people to our city. The festival is fun and teaches history, but we want to teach tolerance, acceptance, and specifically unity, things that are hard to place a price tag on. It brings emotional investment, which can be far greater than monetary investment. When citizens are invested in their community, there is less crime, graffiti, violence, etc., because we know our neighbors and watch out for our neighbors. A similar message is used to justify the National Night Out, but even that event splits the community into three. It is often said by newcomers that our city feels close and small, as our new police chief wanted to belong to a Mayberry, and Galt is quite close to that. We still have, for the most part, that feel, and we want to keep that. Not by shutting down growth, but by welcoming and embracing those that are coming and celebrating the many cultures that are already in our community. In our community, where there is little to no community-wide interaction, some smaller inner communities start to crop up. For example, look at San Francisco. Within that city, you have Chinatown, Japantown, the Wharf, Little Italy. All are unified within themselves, but lack the greater unity. We will never reach San Francisco or even Elk Grove size, but we don't want the little versions of standalone pockets in our city also. Elk Grove versus Laguna, a similar battle up north. They even tried to create a new city called Laguna. We already have a structure dividing our city, Highway 99, and we need a community-wide activity that makes that obstruction just another city street. I think the Heritage Festival is really important to this community. I think we need to have festivals and events that the community can come to as a whole and meet their neighbors. I moved here 22 years ago, and one of the very first things we went to was the little Independence Day festival we used to have. We were so thrilled, and I was heartbroken when it was dissolved a couple years later. I went to one of the first extravaganzas about 5 years ago, and from there I met Winona Cassidy, who then pulled me into Rotary. From there I met Mitesh, who pulled me into Galt Shop Local and Galt Business Builders. And from there I've been pulled into many different directions, into running the extravaganza and now chairpersoning the Heritage Festival. So I think these community-wide events are very, very important to the community. I don't think you can put a price tag on how much these events bring to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Roberts.
Good evening, and thank you for moving this thing up. Really appreciate it. Gail was very eloquent, and I think talking, and by the way, I'm the president of the Galt Community Character Coalition, so since we're on the agenda, I thought maybe I should be here tonight. Gail was very eloquent about the Heritage Festival, and I really can't add anything to what she said, but what I will say is something maybe more general. There are many, many people who volunteer on behalf of this city, on behalf of the community, on behalf of the many events that are held here. And without the city's sponsorship or help, many of these events would not be held, period. And I think I can back that up by saying if the Heritage Festival, for example, had to go out and buy liability insurance and do some other things, it would be very, very expensive. And so the city sponsorship is very, very valuable to the community and to these events. The other thing about volunteerism in this community, as I see it, is it's a resource. And, you know, I taught economics for years and years and years, and I lived in Turkey at one point, a long, long time ago. And they did not treat, they had no concept of what a human resource was. And yet, it was one of the three major resources that we taught about when I taught economics. And I think it's what's made this country what it is, because we recognize that human resource. Without that resource in this city, it's going to be a city, not a community. And that's, I guess, what I want to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, I have no further comments from the public on this. Any discussion from council? Do I have a motion to accept as presented?
I will make the motion.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Payne. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Powers. Any further discussion?
Yes. So I just would like to state that, last year when this came forward, one of the things that I asked about was, how much money the events were making when the city, in this case, is waiving, just so everybody knows, we're waiving $2,688 of, resources, whether it's work employees or, rental fees or whatever. And I think so what I really wanted to say is that I really want to compliment the Heritage Festival, because you came forward asking for us to support something, for the city to support something, and you actually showed us your budget for last year, you showed us your budget for this year. Since I've been on the council, you're the only organization that's come forward requesting money from us and actually showing us that, last year you made a little over $500, you're putting it back into your budget this year. I think that's, I just want to compliment you for that, because I made the comment last year and got a lot of pushback saying that it wasn't fair for me to ask for that. So I really appreciate the fact that you brought that forward, and that with that said, I can support it. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Then call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye?
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Passes 4-0. Okay, moving on. Kind of threw me off. Back to scheduled matters to J1, proposed capital improvement program, fiscal years 2016, 2017 through 2020, 2021. Ms. Boyd?
Mr. Palazzo, did you have anything you wanted to say before I do the PowerPoint?
I do. I'm trying to find my place on the agenda.
We threw you.
Jumping back and forth here, so, and thank you. It's really a pleasure to bring before, to the City Council, the biennial budget 2016 to 2018. And, as we started this, and it was a kind of a long, involved process, that we went through, maybe a little bit different than what staff has been used to. In the middle of the budget process, we brought on an interim finance director, to help us out, and and her staff have done a real amazing job in putting this budget together. I wanted to thank the staff for doing that. And the rest of the staff and the directors and their efforts in the multiple meetings, answering all the questions, getting me up to speed on how we function and operate, and we have a good budget presented to the council this evening. It's kind of a hold the line budget from what we've had in the past. I am pleased to report that the economy is healthy, and our property taxes, sales tax, transaction tax have all are increasing. Downside is our costs are increasing as well over. But when we sat down with staff and we took a look at what are our priorities and where we're at, and we did a little bit more analysis with this budget to really see what is it that we need to focus on for our employees and our facilities. There's some surprising things that we kind of came up with. Through the recession, to the point we've deferred a lot of maintenance on our facilities, deferred purchasing vehicles, IT equipment, and those costs we've outlined in the budget that we did through our budget workshop are fairly significant. And we realized we can't cover all those costs in 1 year or 2 years, with the budget. So we really need to sit back and do some planning on how we're going to move our business and our city forward. And a lot of pieces of that pie, that economic development pie that I like to talk about, are going to help us out. This evening, we've presented Emily will kind of get into more of the numbers and the balance of the budget. But it's I think of a budget created as a collaborative process with staff. It's been very transparent. We have some recommendations, some additions of some positions, but those positions have been discussed through our staff, and it's strategically investing in moving the city forward is the way I look at it. We just can't sit still. Sometimes we take a little bit of risk in where we're at, but there's some things in order to move the city forward, and those recommendations are in the budget. We're cautious and conservative, with the budget, in order to keep the city fiscally strong. Through our budget workshop that we had, there's several recommendations that we made a recommendation to the council that we'll coming back to the council with. Those are outlined in our budget message. I believe I forget which page it's on, but several highlights there that we'll be bringing that back to the council to help our I call it our fiscal foundation. There's some things there that will just help strengthen our foundation so we can move our city forward. With that, I'd like to have Emily do a kind of a more formal presentation on what's in the budget. We'll start with capital improvement program.
Good evening, Mayor Cruz, members of the council. It's good to be with you here tonight, and this is the end product of a lot of work over the last 3 months, not only with the finance department, but all of the other departments of the city. And particularly the capital improvement program is a lot of intensive work with the Public Works Department, Mr. Winkler and Gwen, and the rest of the Public Works staff. So I want to thank all of them for their time and efforts in getting this done. Capital Improvement Plan is a long-range capital planning document. It has detailed 5-year costs and funding estimates. We review it annually. In addition, the council receives quarterly reports on the progress on capital improvement projects. We have a total of 60 projects, $539.4 million in total projects. That's across all of the years. Only $25.1 million of those are in the 5-year plan that we're talking about this evening. 6.6 million of those is recommended in fiscal 16-17. However, 1.1 million of the 6.6 is unfunded. We're still looking for a funding source for that particular project. 4.3 million is recommended for appropriations in fiscal 17-18. And then in years 3 to 5 of the 5-year plan, we have 14.2 million, and 388.3 million are beyond the CIP. So that's in year 6 and beyond. The number that's not on the slide is 126.0 million, which is the amount that was in prior fiscal years before this plan. So on projects that carry over year to year, we have a cumulative total of how much we spent to date on projects. So we're making progress on our projects. The wastewater treatment plant upgrades are under construction. We have design underway on the C Street Central Galt Streets project, the bicycle lane improvements, the arsenic sludge removal project, courtyard MSC improvements, Littleton Center stove renovation, 4th Street parking lot and open spaces, transit operations maintenance center, safe routes to school, library expansion, street rehabilitation program. I believe that should actually say complete street rehabilitation. It's a project, not necessarily a program, so just make a note of that, please. ADA compliance. And just generally, this pie chart shows you the expenditures by source. The largest piece of that pie there is the federal share. That means that the majority of our projects are funded by federal, state, and regional funding. The second largest piece is the developer fees. Those are the impact fees that fund infrastructure projects. As the city grows, we have additional needs for infrastructure, and that's what those fees fund. Then we have charges for services. Those are projects that are funded by utility rates and or lighting and landscape districts. And then there's Measure A and gas tax and culture and rec are in there too. A pie chart that will show you the expenditures by category. Okay, so what types of projects are we working on? You'll see the vast majority there are transportation projects. That's that large blue expanse of space there. The Parks and Recreation is the green piece, which is the next largest piece or category of projects. We have wastewater, which is the orange piece, and the water is red for some reason. And I'm sure there's no connection there between water and the color red, but we already used blue on transportation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through the projects by category and tell you what list the project name and the funding source. And I'm not going to go into any detail on any of the projects, but if you have questions on a particular project, please feel free to stop me, and either I or Mr. Winkler will respond to those questions. General improvements, we have parking lot pavement rehabilitation. That's at the Galt Market. We've got $20,000 there being funded by the Parks and Recreation Fund 6. Then we have the 4th Street parking lot and open space improvement, $300,000 funded by a community development block grant, and that is in Fund 1. Utilities master plans, $252,000 funded by utility service charges, utility connection fees, and impact fees. In the Parks and Recreation category, we have and the other thing to note here is that I'm only talking about fiscal years 17 and 18. If we have ongoing projects in fiscal 16 that we're still working on, they're not on these particular slides. The Chabola Center renovation, $38.5 funded by Parks and Rec. Walker Park, the total of $4.1 million funded by the park development impact fees and parkland impact fees. And this is spread over the 2-year period.
I was wanting to ask on that when we, earlier in the year, we talked about the skateboard park. And is that going to be considered under the Walker Park plans?
Okay, I wasn't a part of that discussion, so I'll ask Mr. Winkler if he could address that.
I can help. I'm looking over at our Parks and Rec colleagues. My recollection of what the council action was, and there was lots of discussion over several meetings, was that we would stick to the approved CIP, which had Walker Park as a multi-year plan project for which funding had been predominantly set aside, but that after we award that, we would review remaining available impact funds, park funds, and if for chance our bids came in favorable, and then we would be able to consider adding or approving additional funding for skate park phase next.
The way I thought I remembered it was you were going to get the bids and then maybe look them over and maybe consider where you could maybe put one project off. That was why we were going to get the bids separately to consider. If there was a way that maybe we could get the skateboard park included.
The way I remember it is we put the skate park on hold.
Totally.
And yeah, we were totally just going to go with that next phase of the fields and stuff at Walker Park.
I think the recommendation was after Walker Park was finished, we would look at the funding that was left available and see if there was funding to bring back some ideas about the skate park. Because there was lots of discussion about what could happen with the skate park. That we did not want it to affect Walker Park. But staff can research that, but that's my understanding of it.
I wish we could get research on that because it's not clear to me. It seemed like it was not completely decided. Thank you.
Okay, and then the next item is the Replace Community Park Playground, and that's funded by $95,000 from the Northeast Lighting and Landscaping District. It's not a distract, it's a district. Library expansion, $66,000 is funded by the General Administrative Impact Fees, and this is where we have the $1.1 million that we have an unidentified funding source. And once we get through the design, we'll be looking at where can we find some funds and achieve some funding to complete this project, and we'll be bringing that back to the council at a later date with some ideas or thoughts on what we can do. Okay.
Voyage Center renovation, what does that include? What was that?
We are beginning to be concerned about the condition of the floor and possible trip hazards as a senior center on regular use. We are continuing, we've done some bathroom renovations previously. We've got some continuing and ongoing HVAC, aging facility things, but I believe this was primarily going to be the flooring in the current 2-year outlook.
Okay, thank you.
Transportation, we have the C Street Central Galt Streets project, so $2 million of that is coming from SACOG, and $836,000 from Measure A. Bike lane improvements, $260,000 by SACOG. Pedestrian improvements, $100,000 by SACOG. Transit Operation Maintenance Center, $467,000 by the State Transit Assistance Grant. And Safe Routes to School, $85,000 funded by Measure A. In the water fund, we are going to be replacing and upgrading water lines. We have $150,000 set aside from water service charges for that. A standby generator, $75,000, again funded by water service charges. In wastewater, we have the Oberlin Trudy Way wastewater replacement project. That's $115,000 funded by wastewater. And then the Southeast Trunk Sewer Main, $300,000 funded by wastewater connection fees. Annual lift station rehabilitation, $200,000 funded by wastewater service charges. Replacement and upgrading of sewer pipelines, $200,000 funded by wastewater service charges. And in equipment, we have a street sweeper vacuum that we are making payments on each year.
That's painful to watch, you know? When that guy comes around, and he's just swirling that thing in the gutter. I mean, come on, what's that all about? That's a waste of money.
Mr. Mayor?
Sir,
Yes.
if you could wait till the presentation's over. Thank you.
So we're asking if you have any questions on any of these projects or would like to discuss any of them, we'd be happy to do that. What we're asking you to do is to adopt a resolution approving the 5-year capital improvement plan. And at that point, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you. If you would like to go out a speaker sheet, sir, we'd be more than glad to hear what you have regarding this. If you would like to, that'd be great.
What do you want to talk to?
All right, thank you. Absolutely, sir. If you'd like to go ahead and grab a sheet, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Up here, if you could, please.
It has to be recorded.
It's, the whole meeting is recorded, sir. Yes, before we go any further with it, I do like to open the public hearings on this. Okay.
Thank you for your time. First and foremost, I watched this guy come through and that, what was it, $94,000 we still owe on this piece of equipment. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing. The guy drives around and he sweeps the gutters. I don't know what he's accomplishing. I mean, for $94,000, we could put that in the police department or fire or something else, a little bit more productive. That's just my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your name, sir? Sir, if you could state your name, please.
Yeah. Philip.
Thank you, sir. Do I have any other public comment on this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Discussion by council.
Nice presentation, thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
Take a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hewer
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Powers. Any further discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Passes 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, before we go on, the second part of this presentation is actually under item K8, which is the proposed operating budget, and we neglected to ask that that item be moved up to right after the capital improvement program, so I wondered if you would consider moving that item up before the rest of the calendar.
So moved.
Okay. Do we need a motion in a second, or we just need to, a general consensus vote? Oh, okay. you're up, again.
Mayor Cruz, members of the council, again. While Steve is getting this one set up for us. Okay, so this is the biennial, 2-year budget. A proposed operating budget for the funds of the city for fiscal 16-17 and 17-18. As Mr. Palazzo said in his opening remarks, we do have some signs that the economy is continuing to improve. We have some increases in property tax revenues. We have projected increases in sales tax revenues. As we talked about in our May 9 budget meeting, we also have increases in expenditures. And expenditures still seem to be increasing faster than revenues. And I know that's an issue for concern. And we talked about that at May 9. I think one of the things that is important to point out, and Mr. Palazzo might have said that, and I'll just repeat it if you can bear with me, is that what we did in this budget process is we looked at what our priorities are, and we saw what are the things that we absolutely need to do, and what are the things that need to be done, but that we can defer perhaps another year. And when the economy went into the recession, the city of Galt was very prudent and cut back on many things and deferred a lot of maintenance, a lot of routine stuff with the IT maintenance and building maintenance and vehicle purchases and those kinds of things were deferred. And we've reached a point now where in some areas we're not able to defer any longer. And IT is one of those areas where we have monies in this budget for IT because we can't defer some of that basic investment in IT infrastructure any longer. We're going to start to see system failures which can disrupt operations of the city. So what we did when we were looking at this budget is we said, what are the priorities? What do we need to do now, and what can we defer? While we go through the process of doing some of those fundamental foundational fiscal analysis plans that we talked about at the May 9 budget meeting. So this budget that we're going to give you here is really a very cautious, conservative budget. We're only asking for things that we think are absolutely essential to continue the operation.
Before you can go back to
Sure.
In our binders, we talked about minimum wage increases could cause compaction.
Correct.
And that's a question that I would like you to talk about a little bit more. I'm not seeing the connection in, well, compaction is when the salaries or wages get to the point where maybe the supervisors are not making as much or just very little with the next step. So I'm trying to see the connection between the minimum wage being established and compaction.
What I believe we have experienced, particularly in Parks and Recreation, is where you have supervisors whose pay is maybe only 5% or a small portion greater than the people that they supervise. When the people that they supervise are on minimum wage and they get wage increases, if the supervisor isn't also getting a wage increase, then what you have is a situation where the subordinate and the supervisor may be making the same or very near the same.
Right.
And that's what we refer to as compaction. But what happens, and one of the ways that I think we want to address that, because other than putting into this budget the increases in minimum wage for those employees that are subject to minimum wage, we put those in because we have to pay that. We did not put into this budget anything for compaction, and compaction will be something that we're going to have to look at in the future. A bit later in this agenda tonight, you're going to be hearing an item requesting you to approve a contract for a class and comp study. When we get into the class and comp study, what we'll do is we'll look at where are those pay ranges. Is the subordinate being paid the same as the supervisor, or is there a sufficient variance between what the supervisor and the subordinate is being paid? If you don't have the supervisors being paid at least something more than the subordinate, they don't really have a motivation to supervise. They have to be the subordinate. They have less responsibility.
Exactly.
So you run into those kinds of issues. When we get into the class and comp study, that's one of the factors that will be looked at.
do you have any idea how many will be affected by the minimum wage?
The number of employees, I don't know that number off the top of my head. It's likely to be mostly our part-time and temporary employees in the Parks and Recreation Department, and I don't know the physical count of those individuals.
Because that was one of our concerns and one of the reasons that we felt like expenses were going to exceed the revenues. This is just one small part of it, so that's why I was trying to get a feel for what we're talking about.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Happy to answer any questions. We're actually recommending a couple of organizational shifts, primarily because we feel that we can achieve greater efficiency in providing the services to, both our internal and external customers. Internally and as well as externally, we want to move information technology services from the city manager department to the finance department. We'll be able to have it'll be more efficient in that finance has a greater capacity to handle supervision of the IT department. We also have capacity and administrative support in our department where we can have some of our current existing staff administratively support IT. So as far as trying to get the most efficiency we can, we believe this is a good recommendation, a good move to make. Moving code enforcement from community development to the police department. Code enforcement kind of falls right in there with police services, and if you have questions about that, I'm sure the chief will be happy to answer those.
So code enforcement will report to the police department, correct?
Correct.
That's what I'm understanding the recommendation is?
That is correct.
Is that? So, code enforcement will work closer with the police regarding complaints we get regarding properties and some of the crime and stuff. Is that what my understanding is, so that they would work more closely? That makes sense that it would align more with the police department, considering it has to do with enforcement and enforcement of building some of our properties.
From the police perspective, it's just a great way to bring code enforcement in with some of our problem-oriented policing, the crime prevention, to really focus on the quality of life issues that are happening within Galt. So we're excited for the move. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody in the city.
So in the information technology services, so currently the IT department reports to the city manager, and now they're going to report to finance. Is that my understanding? So they'll report to our finance director?
That is correct.
So then we've got a few charts in here for you to look at. Did bar charts because I think they graphically illustrate what's going on a little bit fairly easy to understand. The tall green, pale green line is the tax revenues in the general fund. And you see that line moving across is fairly stable. It's a little bit of a dip down in 17 and then it goes back up in 18. And that's really more related to the timing of when revenues are recorded rather than being related to any reduction in revenue. The red line is the other revenues line, and that one is falling off a little bit. And part of the reason for that fall off is that we have lower, we expect to receive a lower RDA successor agency administrative fee this year. As the RDA continues to unwind or wind down, we just have fewer costs associated with it, so we have a smaller revenue reimbursement there. The transfers in is really, from this distance it looks really flat, which it is basically very flat. General fund expenditures. This chart includes operating and minor capital only. It does not include CIP. And for simplicity's sake, we've broken it into 4 categories in the general fund. The first is support services, and support services includes counsel, clerk, city attorney, city treasurer, administration, finance, human resources, information technology, and non-departmental. Those are all the support services of the city. And that line is the green line, and it's pretty stable. The red line there is the police, and it's going up a tick, but you'll also see that the shortest bar there, which is the community development, is actually going down a tick, and so part of that is the transferring of the code enforcement from one department to another. The blue line is public works, and it's going up a little bit in 17 and then staying up a little bit in 17 because we are putting some money and trying to allocate some money and some funds to building maintenance that has been deferred. We still don't have enough money to cover all of our building maintenance needs. We have approximately, and I think you saw the slide at the budget workshop, roughly 1.2 million in unfunded building maintenance needs, and we need, as we go through this year, to figure out a way to start funding some of those. But for now, we put a little extra money in supplies and materials and a little extra money in professional services so that Public Works has the ability to address some of our more urgent needs when we have things like, something emergency that happens, so he can cover those. Part of what we'll be bringing back later to you, and I know this is a bit repetitive of what you've heard before, is internal service funds proposals for how we're going to meet some of those needs for building maintenance and vehicle and equipment replacement as well as IT. So that will be coming back to you probably in the spring. Parks and Recreation revenues. See, the tallest line there is the Galt market, and it's been really flat. And the other two lines are not significantly different. I think overall I would just say that the revenues in this department and this fund are flat. Parks and Recreation expenses, we have a little bit of a bump up there in fiscal 17, and that's because of fiscal 17 we have some minor capital needs that we're trying to fund, one of which is the recreation class software. We need to upgrade that software. The program we're currently using for online registrations and other registrations for Parks and Rec programs is no longer going to be supported at the end of this calendar year, and so we needed to put some money in there to upgrade that. Without that software, it's going to make operations of Parks and Rec very, very difficult, so we need to get that upgraded. And the lighting and landscaping districts, now I stacked the three districts. They're really their own funds, all three of them. But I stacked them because I wanted to graphically show you something. This is the revenue stack, and the total there each year is right around $750,000. And this is the expenditure stack, and the total there each year is right in the neighborhood of $1 million. So your simple math will tell you that 750 doesn't really cover $1 million. And this is one of the things we also discussed at our May 9 budget workshop, is that for this fiscal year only, well, in this budget cycle only, the general fund is going to cover those deficits. We are working on a lighting and landscaping financial analysis, an engineer's report, which we'll be bringing back to the council for consideration that will possibly provide some solutions to this problem. And in the enterprise fund, there's really not a lot going on there in stormwater, water, and solid waste. They are the definition of status quo. The stormwater has an annual inflationary revenue adjustment that occurs in it. The expenditure estimates year over year are pretty much flat. In wastewater, we do have some changes. The debt service on the latest SRF loan begins, and in fiscal 17, we're required to set aside a debt service reserve. That's $1.6 million. In fiscal 18, we're going to need to make our first loan payment. That's going to be $1.2. M&O expenditures have been increasing as we bring more components online in the wastewater plant. There's more demand, more need for power and chemicals and all of that stuff they use over there at wastewater treatment. We are going to be working on a cost of service study in this coming fiscal year so we can evaluate whether we have the right rates established in the wastewater fund, and we'll be bringing that back to the council for discussion. So then citywide, with all of the funds, in fiscal 16 and 17, in both of those years, we have SRF loan proceeds that are adding into our revenue line, and that's basically the reimbursements for the expenses that we've put out to do the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So, and then on the expenditure lines, so we've broken that out there by M&O, minor capital, and CIP projects. So in fiscal 16, we have 55.9 million in revenues. We have 52.7 in expenditures with a net of 3.2. In fiscal 17, we have 48.5 in revenues, 39.2 in expenditures with a net of 9.2. In fiscal 17, we have 38.2 in revenues, 37.7 in expenditures with a net of 519.
It shows the expenditures going down. That's kind of surprising.
Between fiscal 17 and fiscal 18, is that the one you're looking at?
Well, really all the way across, but yeah, that's the big difference.
In fiscal 16, you'll see those expenditures of 52.7. Those include CIP expenditures of 21.1. And then CIP in 17 is only 5.4, and then in 18 it's 4.3. So if you're looking at the total expenditure lines, you're going to see it falling a lot because we're not doing CIP projects every year, and they're kind of, the bulk of the money is hitting us in 16.
It's nice, but it's just surprising to see the numbers going down.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting when you put the numbers up this way and you think, wow, we really cut a lot of expenses, but really all we're doing is, we're completing projects, so we're not spending more money. So then, again, and James talked about this a little bit, and I did as well. These are the future fiscal planning projects that we have going. General fund reserve policy on the fund balance, cost allocation study, a business plan for Parks and Rec, proposal to establish internal service funds, and engineering fiscal analysis of the lighting and landscaping district. Our goal is to bring all of these financial, foundational studies and issues back to you for consideration in the next 12 months. So I'd be happy to hear any questions or answer any questions that I'm able to, and then I would like to ask you if you could approve the resolution adopting the 2-year budget.
I have a few questions. I don't know if this is when you want them, about from the binder, the big budget.
Absolutely, we can do that. I'm going to go sit down and look at my binder while we do that.
Not that many, but one of them was, we talked about earlier, and it only confused me, with the recommendation to add, what did we call this person? It's in the police budget. It's the project specialist management, no, didn't say it right. Third page or something that you're looking at.
I think it's called a project management specialist, and it's a little bit confusing.
It's in his letter in the very beginning. It talks about adding that particular person to the police department.
Thank you.
So the question I have was, he was temporary before, correct?
He was temporary before, that is correct.
And now he's going to become permanent.
They want him to become a regular full-time employee, that's correct.
So what will be the full cost of his salary, total, not just what we're adding on to the temporary?
Okay. So as a full-time, regular employee, and this includes all benefits. This is wages plus retirement, plus city costs such as medical and FICA and workers' comp. This is the fully loaded cost. In fiscal 18, it's $147,000. And fiscal 19, it's $160,000.
Okay, it's a lot of money, and we had a good discussion today, Chief Stockman and myself, and I think it would be a good idea if you talked about the job description of this person. He's not just another addition to the administration, but you have some very definite needs that he would fulfill, and I think it might be good to share.
Okay. So the title is Project Management Specialist. It in the police world, it's the Professional Standards Coordinator. What that position would do is, that is the person that would take our internal and citizen complaints, They would be the ones doing the investigations on complaints and concerns about police department employees, whether it be conduct or the other complaints that come through. They're also the person that's going to be managing our policies and procedures. Those are the two functions that he's currently doing under the part-time basis. They're also going to be doing all of our recruitment and retention and all of our training and our training needs for the police department, for all the personnel.
Okay.
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Yes.
It says that some of it's going to be recovered through the Sacramento Abandoned Vehicle Service Authority. Is that a...
It's a different position. That's the vehicle park
Oh.
enforcement.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. The project management specialist is also being partially funded through Measure R? Or-
It is funded through Measure R.
Yeah, it's a Measure R expenditure, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just felt like, I know it's confusing to me what this person did, and for $147,000, I thought it would be nice to understand that a little bit better, and I feel like the citizens also appreciate that.
No, and I understand. And most police agencies have a professional standards person dedicated to that. It's a function that really helps with the need for transparency within the police department. I also feel that you need to have somebody that is ensuring and overseeing to make sure that we are doing exactly what it is the citizens of Galt want us to do, believe that we're doing, that we're acting properly within the law, that we're fair to all of our citizens. There has to be a system in place so we can address those concerns. So that's why this position is extremely important for us moving forward as the city expands, as we develop new programs, as we are looking into body cameras. Somebody has to be able to do the audits and reviews of those. One of the things that I'm doing within the police department is auditing every single process and program that we're working to make sure that we're doing it right, to make sure we're not missing anything, make sure we're adhering to all the laws and the mandates that are coming down from the state and federal. So we need a specific person that is trained in that area to perform those functions.
Okay, thank you.
I also just want to add that this type of position is dramatically important in controlling the liability risk in the operation of our police department. And so, yes, there is a cost for this type of position, but you really can't put a price tag on the savings that we hopefully will have by controlling our liability risk as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, both. I did have just maybe one or two more questions. This one is on the Senator Parks and Recs, and it's the Library Capital Maintenance Fund. And
Can
it
you
shows,
tell me the page number, please?
I can, it's 209.
Thank you.
It's for the year 2015-2016, we had a budget of $58,761 with estimated expenditures of $2,455. I just wondered what that was for. Was it designated for air conditioner or what for the library?
I believe that, and I'm looking at staff, if I get it wrong, to stand up and wave at me or something. We had some carryover funding that was planned for painting of the existing Marion Lawrence Library, new carpeting, and then there would be moving costs associated with moving all the stacks. We could do the carpeting and do the painting.
Okay.
And we've deferred that and carried it forward so that if and when the library expansion, which would be an addition to the existing facility, moves forward, that our plan would be to coordinate the two. For instance, if the new community room gets built, we don't have to take all those stacks off-site and store them and then bring them all back. Maybe we could build the new expansion before we put the new floor in, the new carpet in, move the stacks over there, and we could paint and carpet the old library, move them back, and then finish the expansion. So we're looking to coordinate and leverage the expansion with planned maintenance. There's also some roofing repairs that need to be done, some entry doors that are pretty well wore out, all the openers, and so we're looking to sort of roll all of that into the larger capital project, but since it's existing deficiencies, it can't come out of impact fees, it would have to come out of operating budget.
Well, thank you for that explanation. Sounds like you're very organized. And also wanted to thank Emily for spending a lot of time with me. We went over this binder almost page by page and line item by line item and answered a lot of questions for me. Had she not done that, we would be here for another couple of hours. But I got the answers to my questions, and I appreciate her patience. Thank you. And I know you all appreciate it too.
Absolutely.
We do.
Any further questions from council? Do I have a motion to adopt?
Mr. Mayor, is there any additional public comment?
Mike Guthridge, Emerald Park Company, 4G's Development. I was listening to this thing about the code enforcement. You're going to take the code enforcement out of the building department and put it in the police department, where the code enforcement should be part of the building department. And you know there's a change going to be going on in the building department. So I think you maybe for at least for a few months, you might want to consider not doing that.
Thank you, Mike.
Al Baldwin, a concerned citizen of Galt, and it's been Measure R for me for many years. So I just have a small little question, and maybe I heard it wrong. This new position in the police department, it's going to be partially funded by Measure R and funded by the general fund, or how does that work? You mentioned it.
Are we referring to the project management specialist that the chief was talking about?
Okay, but I guess, yeah.
It's actually not a new position. It's currently a temporary part-time position. Now we want to move from part-time to full-time, and it is funded fully by Measure R.
It's fully funded.
Right.
Okay, I was thinking it was partially funded, and I heard partially funded, and I was just wondering how you could do that and separate it.
That was my mistake. There you go.
What's that?
I'm the one that said partially.
Oh, well, I listen to what you say.
Do I have any further public comment on this?
This is online too, isn't it? If the audience wants to see what's in this big thick binder, it's available to you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could issue a correction to a comment made earlier under the CIP. The question was, what was this Chabola expenditure lines for? And I correctly said the floor. There's also one of the two commercial stoves that's similar to one of our other centers that's reaching end of life. And so we do have, part of that funding is to replace one of the two stoves with a new in-kind gas-fired unit.
Thank you. Any further comments from council? Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Payne, second by Councilmember Powers. Any further discussion?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I really thought this was laid out really well. Yeah. It was really, let's see, fascinating reading. Oh. But I did want to comment on, you know, in the graph on page, how did I close it? The graph on page 10 that are, you know, that talks about our general fund reserve. So in 2014-2015 budget, our general fund reserves were about at $7 million, my understanding, and by 2017 and 2018 with this budget, our general fund reserves will drop to $4 million.
That's correct, but the one thing that I think we need to remember is that in fiscal 16, the city had to pay $1 million back, to the county because the Department of Finance told us we couldn't, handle, that we had to repay some RDA money to the county. So that came directly out of fund balance. So if you're looking at the two, it's more like 6 versus 4. And also, we do have some amounts that we are dipping into our fund balance to cover, as we discussed in the May 9 meeting, to cover both the deficits in the Parks and Rec Fund and the deficits in the L&L. Our intention is to bring back to you more information about general fund balance and the general fund reserve policy. We'll be doing that in the next couple of months, and we'll be talking in more detail about that at the time.
I'd just like to make a comment that, I mean, staff, in the staff report, it does say that dipping into the general funds is not a sustainable process. And I really think that the community needs to be aware that we came through the recession generally by dipping into our general fund, because our revenues were down during the recession. Our revenues now look very optimistic. Looks like buildings up, that our revenues should go up, housing costs, housing revenues, tax revenues up, but that we can't sustain to continue to dip into our general fund to meet the needs of the city.
I absolutely agree, and I think it's very good that you brought that point up. Thank you.
I did want to ask one question. You mentioned, and we're all aware of the $1 million payout to Department of Finance. We are going to get that money back on the back end, correct?
We are. We have been trying to work on some estimates of when we'll get that back. In this particular budget, in this forecast, we have not included that as any revenue source because we are uncertain at this point of exactly when we'll get it back. Eventually, I will get it back.
I think the Department of Finance is unsure what they're doing to start with, but you're right.
Not sure that I would even disagree with that.
All right. I do have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Please call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Passes 4-0. Okay, so we will try to get back to the original regular calendar, but before we do so, I do have one public speaker sheet that was off topic, and it looks like it came in late. If council will be indulgent here, I just want to hear this one person's input, if that's all right? Council?
Yes, that's fine.
Philip Eakes.
City Council, thank you again for your time. Let me preface this by saying I do like the city of Galt. I like living here. Some of the drawbacks, though, this is just commentary. Some of the drawbacks, my mother-in-law lived here for many years, and I've been in this town, and I just don't see any kind of growth or anything going on. It's pretty much same old, same old. And besides the new Walmart, there's no restaurants. I lived in Elk Grove for 21 years, and coming from Elk Grove to here, I love this sleepy town, but we've got to get some restaurants. We've got to get some commercial growth. We've got to get, you guys want revenue? Let's start building. Let's grow a little bit. And then those budgets start inflating, okay? I saw it in Elk Grove for 21 years. I think when I moved there, it was 40,000 people at best. Now look at it. I mean, it's a thriving city, and the police department's done a great job. City manager, the parks, I mean, they're dynamite. They do a good job in Elk Grove. Just food for thought. That's all I wanted to say. And I guess, what is the 2-year plan for restaurants in this town?
I gotta say, you haven't been down on 4th Street where we have Brewster's, which is new, and I think it's a great restaurant, as well as the Velvet Grill, and we have several other restaurants, Mexican.
You've mentioned 2, okay? You've got 25,000 people here.
Actually, our development.
I know there's
our development director, and our economic development director is present, and she's working very diligently. And actually, we have some new. Starbucks coming with that.
But again, it's all small stuff.
I think that if you go back and look at previous council meetings, one of the things we did today was finalize the approval of what's gonna be 1,700 new homes in this community. So I think there is
I
a
knew
lot
about
of
that.
stuff on the horizon. There hasn't been a lot of stuff going on the last 5 or 6 years, and there wasn't an outgrowth either. It's just, everybody was, things took a step back during the recession.
Okay, so do we have any plans on the docket right now in the next couple of years for any major restaurants, any name restaurants?
Would you like to?
Outback, Chili's,
Well, Mayor,
just anything.
May I recommend that we can get together, I forget, your name, but we can get together with you, tomorrow. We can give you a call and we
Okay.
can talk to you about, our economic development plans.
I will tell you there are some things in the works, but you should sit down and talk with them so we don't
All right, is
spill the beans.
this young lady here? All right, I'll get your card.
I think they're tired of me.
Thank you guys for your
Thank
time.
you, sir. Okay, moving on to the regular calendar. City Council's office. We'll start off with discretionary funds for Councilmember Campion. He was asking for a carryover of his remaining allocations of his discretionary funds to fiscal year 2017. Do we have a motion to that effect? Motion to approve?
What, we're all asking for that?
I was gonna take them one at a time.
Well, throwing it all together would have been.
Do we have a motion?
I move. I would actually move to do them all for the same recommended action.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir, you can if you
Okay.
like.
I move to do everybody's, because we're approving the carryover of the remaining allocation for all of us, so.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve items 1 through 5 on K by Councilmember Powers. Do I have a second?
A second?
Second by Vice Mayor Payne. Any further discussion?
I would like to explain to the community again what is referred to as discretionary funds. They're actually, maybe the city attorney could explain what discretionary funds are and probably in a better manner than I can. What the concept behind it is.
Sure. So, basically discretionary funds are a small pot of money when particular council members feel that there's a particular project that will be of public benefit. They have the ability to bring that project forward to the city council for consideration. Discretionary funds are only spent with the city council's approval, and as with any funds that the city spends, they need to be for the public benefit. And so those are the criteria that control the expenditure of these funds, and each council member is limited to $1,000 per year of projects that they can bring forward for council consideration.
Okay.
So, that said, I'm asking that my discretionary funds be returned to the general fund or IT. I actually have done a lot of thinking about this, and I think that this idea of if there's things that the council feels that we need, that it should just, I have a problem with the policy. There's been a lot of comments in the community regarding it's referred to as the slush fund. I've heard it referred to as lots of things. So I'm not asking that my discretionary funds be carried over. I'm asking that they be returned to the general fund.
Would you like to modify your, so 1 through 4? Okay.
So basically, Mr. Mayor, that would be to approve items K 1 through 4 by not acting on item K 5 at the end of the fiscal year. Those funds will just automatically revert to the general fund.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have a modification to the motion as such by Councilmember Powers, correct?
Correct.
And do you stand by your second?
I stand by my second.
Okay. If we have no further discussion.
I have a little discussion.
Go for it.
I just wanted to say that, I happen to think it's a good thing, because sometimes you can't always budget for things. For example, one of the things that I think has been well received by the community are the military banners that Mayor Cruz has used the citizens' discretionary money to put up on the overpass. And I think some things come up during the year that you can't budget for, and if you have your $1,000 that you can do something with, I think it is very beneficial. And for $1,000, I don't see us getting into too much trouble, especially since it's approved by the council. You can't just go out and spend it.
And I actually, Barbara, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I also believe that if the money wasn't needed and wasn't spent in this fiscal year, that it go back, and then in the next fiscal year will be allocated. There'll be the discretionary fund is in the next budget. But just as if a department doesn't spend all of its funding, I just have a problem with the carryover approach.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree that there are things that come up that it helps fund. But if it's not spent in this fiscal year, I don't believe it should be carried over. That's why I'm only requesting that mine not be carried over. I understand that everybody else feels very strongly about about having that money and carrying it over. I think we're allocated $1,000 a year for each council member to recommend budget-wise, and if we don't spend that, then I think it needs to go back to the general fund. That's my personal opinion. That's why I'm making the decision to request regarding my side.
Okay, then I think we have to change this all then, because I have something that I wanted to carry it over for, but I didn't have, not carry it over for, but to use it this year. But I didn't have the information because time goes by real quickly, and I had talked to someone about what I needed it for, so I'm gonna spend mine before the end of the year, so I guess I'll say bring mine back June 28th. So I guess maybe doing them each individually would have been a good idea. So maybe I'll just kill my motion.
Okay.
When does this have to be spent by? What's the cutoff date?
See, June 30th.
Is it June 30th?
End of fiscal year.
But it's
So-
got to be processed and the whole.
Well, I think you could.
I think it has to come before the council. We have to agree.
Correct.
So, Mr. Mayor, if the motion were to pass tonight to approve the carryover, and then notwithstanding the approval of that motion, if you end up spending the money before the end of the fiscal year, the money would just be spent, and there wouldn't be nothing to carry over. So
Okay, so
you could still approve the motion tonight and then bring an additional motion back on the 28th if you so desire.
okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Please call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. So it'll pass 4-0.
Okay.
Moving on to City Manager's Office. Strategic plan goals, objectives, and priorities.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mayor,
Boswell.
members of council, thank you, and I'll be very brief on this. We went through a process this year to look at our strategic goals, objectives, and priorities. We had a couple of really good sessions. I thought, myself with the directors, and then bringing back some ideas back to the council and having some good discussions. Before you is a document that we've all went through and looked at, made some comments on. I embrace and like the strategic plans. It gives me kind of my focus and vision and what the council wants me as your city manager to achieve through this next year. So I do recommend that we the council adopt the attached strategic plan with the goals, objectives, and priorities. The plan will be brought back to the council on a quarterly basis. As adopted, we'll put together some sort of matrix so we can track the progress of our priorities within the strategic plan, and report at the same time that we do our CIP reporting.
All right.
If that's okay with council.
Discussion by council?
I do have one question.
Sure.
On page 6, would you explain what this is? It says, make it a priority to begin the process of putting in place the necessary policies, procedures, and practices to capture institutional knowledge. Could you?
Well, where are you at on that one?
It's
Okay, I see it.
under 2016-17 priorities. I just don't remember that from our.
Yeah, that was a discussion that we did have, with.
Or just tell me what it means.
Yeah, I from my institutional knowledge and memory of that is bring back. We have a lot of processes and procedures that staff does. on a daily basis. And, if a staff member leaves, where does that knowledge go? And it's, for staff to come back and evaluate your departments and take a look at, our policies and procedures and write them down, kind of like our best practices. I'm trying to pull out kind of there's a phrase, kind of standard operating procedures, that, departments might do. It's like, how do we issue building permits, or how do we, take on, some sort of, like maybe code enforcement? What are our standard operating procedures in doing that? Get those in writing so we're consistent as we, have either staff turnover.
So the institution is the city staff?
Not the fun form.
Okay,
Or it could be one and the same.
that's okay. I think I know what you mean. It's the wording that,
Okay,
may be
and
wrong.
you feel free to make any changes to that wording. It's your document.
I wouldn't even touch it. I wouldn't know how to.
We can make a note of that next time we go through this, and we can see what we can do to wordsmith that a little bit better.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Motion by Councilmember Hewer, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Powers. Any further discussion? Then I would call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers?
Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. We have a 4-0 vote. Hang in there, guys, we're almost done. Human Resources, Citywide Classification and Compensation Study. Ms. Islas.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Looks like our finance director was having so much fun up here tonight that I'm going to how it works from
And
my
that's a
end.
good idea.
So before you tonight is a request to conduct a classification study citywide and recommending Coffin Associates to be the consultant to conduct that study. As you probably know, our classification plan and job descriptions are a basis for a large majority of the HR functions, and it affects employees, and through tonight, we've already referred to classification and compensation, several times, and so it is very important. It is important that we have job descriptions that truly match what our employees are doing, that it matches the requirements needed for education, experience. We use job descriptions for returning employees to work, for light duty restrictions, for internal consistency, for legal compliance, so it's very important. As I stated in my report, we have not conducted a large study, a classification study since 2001. Actually, that's the only one that's ever been done here at the city, and we've made a lot of changes to positions. We've eliminated positions, we've changed job descriptions, and there are many, several, I should say, positions that have already been requested to be reviewed. So we thought it would be a good time to just kind of stop and look at everything as a whole. And there will be, it'll be conducted in 2 sections, if approved. The classification study will be kicked off with employee meetings, so employees will be able to learn about what the process is going to entail. They will be given position description questionnaires, and that will give them an opportunity to fill out a form that will say what they're doing and what their responsibilities are and what their days are like, so we have an idea of really what positions fit into what classifications. The consultant will then take those PDQs, is what I'll refer to them as, and just take a look at them, see if they match our job descriptions, if we need to update job descriptions. Maybe there are some positions that really aren't matching the job anymore. We may need to create a few new ones, so there'll be a large number of hours spent on the analysis of our job descriptions. And the employees will then have an opportunity to review the draft, and their supervisors and managers, of course, and make any comments about that. So our goal is to have our employees engaged, in the process from, as much as possible from the beginning to the end. And the next section is the classification study. the compensation study. And, of course, the big part of this is that it's going to be more in-depth. Even though we've done comp studies in the past, this one is, we're looking at it to be more in-depth, starting with our comparator cities. We've used the same comparator cities since 2001 and 2, and throughout the years, some of you may remember, that we've had many discussions about whether those are the best comparator cities for our agency. So we want to take a look at that. And then with possibly new job descriptions and new classifications, kind of picking out, actually putting together the plan to make sure that internal equity is fair. So it's kind of like what we were talking about with compaction. What is going to be our plan and our policy for what a supervisor, what percentage should be, you know, a difference between a supervisor and an employee, and so on and so forth. So again, even though we have done the salary surveys in the past, this is going to be something that's going to be way more in depth. And then again, it's not committing to any salary increases or any changes like that. It's really just kind of structuring our compensation plan.
So with your question?
Sure, if I was okay with that overview, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
If after we do that and see that there's some, I mean, there could be some changes somewhere, right? And all employees are in on this, or just managers? I didn't quite get that.
I'm sorry.
Are all employees in on that, or just managers? I didn't quite get what you were saying.
On the salary portion of it?
No, on just the survey at all.
Yes, during the position description questionnaire, the employee's going to fill out what they're doing, and then the supervisors and managers are going to review it to make sure that that's, you know, what they feel that that's what accurately reflects what they're doing or what they should be doing. And then we want to look at, because I get questions sometimes regarding certificates and requirements and things like that. So we're going to take a look at those parts of the job description as well.
Okay.
I had a question for you. In looking at the cost, Bryce was at $56,000, Koff is $76,000, and Anderson is $54,000. And I know Koff did it previously. We had this discussion, and I wondered. I had really sort of expected that because they'd been here and been through our structure, that they would have been more competitive. Would you like to share with us why, even though they're more, you felt like they would be the best choice?
Yes, definitely. Because even though the total overall cost is more, when you look at the breakdown, the per hour is less, but the hours spent on the project are significantly higher. So it's going to be, we're getting a lot more analysis and attention to detail and review of our processes. So.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Anything further?
Did I cut you off on the, were you finished?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes, I was.
I'm sorry.
You were just ahead of the game. You hadn't
I
thought
wanted to
of it.
make sure.
I know, it's exciting stuff. For me anyway, but thanks. Okay.
You were just ahead of the game.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if we have nothing further, do we have a motion to adopt? A motion by Councilmember Hewitt. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Powers. If we don't have any further discussion, then call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewitt? Aye. Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. So 4-0 vote. Moving on to Public Works. Reconsideration of Littleton Center stove replacement options. Mr. Winkler.
Now the standard's been set, there's a lot of peer pressure, so I'll have to step down here, tuck my shirt in. Well, this is unfortunately the project that keeps giving, and we'll just, if you'll bear with us, we do have a PowerPoint that is handed out to council, and we'll hopefully technology to share it with, here we go. Mayor and council members, on a serious note, this item is a request for an affirmation or modification of the prior direction given by council regarding replacement of the 30-plus-year-old Littleton Center stoves in light of the current budget challenges. Previous council direction was to replace the existing electric ranges with gas ranges using an approved budget after several augmentations of currently $60,000. So by way of quick background, you can see that though that was almost 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago when we started talking about this during the budget, it hasn't just been sitting idly. We have brought options back and gotten formal direction to proceed with gas, and a $41,000 increase over the original $19,000 budget. And we proceeded to pursue design-build contract options to try to streamline, speed up, and lower the costs of formal design process. That would be to hire a qualified contractor that had in-house capabilities of getting plans approved by the various agencies, including our building department. We received no proposals for contracts that were willing to commit to a fixed price based on the many concerns and variables of either the fire department or the environmental health department moving into an existing building, and without being able to know exactly what was going to be required, they were hesitant to commit to a fixed price, and that of course then gave us budget uncertainty. We didn't want to just do some kind of a time and materials type project. In talking with those contractors that we did have come and look at the facility, they recommended that we do a conventional design bid build, so they knew what they were bidding, and then let the consultant decide what size the gas main needs to be and what PG&E relationships would need to be and what the fire department and what the health department requirements would be. So we went out with an RFP and received 0 consultant proposals. So this is not our finest hour in delivering a project, as obviously the last 2 years can attest. In light of the fact that we did not contemplate having formal design services, if we do proceed with your current direction of attempting to bring in gas ranges in what was formerly an all-electric facility, we do anticipate that the cost will need to go up by another $10,000 to $15,000 to cover the supplemental design costs of doing a conventional project. We wouldn't ask for that at this time if that's your direction to proceed, but when we get the bids, we would bring back a final project cost estimate, but that is an exposure. Lastly, what we didn't have before you when we last discussed this were the $1.2 million in deferred capital improvement needs elsewhere in the city, and neither did we contemplate the fact that the city would be dipping into its reserves just to balance its operating budget. So we wanted to, before we spend more staff time and more consultant time going back out for further proposals, we wanted to just ask council one last time, is a gas stove the direction you want to go or not? And just by way of just reminding you what the challenges are, that in a facility that only has a very small gas line that was added strictly for a heating system, we would have to put in a whole new gas main across the City Hall street, all the way around to the back of the building, and then interior piping to the kitchen. And that would then, going from electric to gas, would trigger a need for fire suppression system upgrades, ventilation system, electrical and control upgrades, and again, we anticipate some extra design costs. So we do in either gas or electric. There's an example of one company that is fairly competitive in the commercial and institutional stove market. On the left is an electric version of a single unit stove or oven with 6 burner tops. As you may recall, the primary concern we're hearing was that the spaghetti feeds and the crab feeds just interminable amount of time to boil water. Well, that's because all 3 of the existing stoves are griddle tops, and that's not an efficient way. Somebody said it's kind of like trying to boil water on a toaster. It can be done, but it's not an efficient way to get there. Well, if we replace with either electric or gas, we can get griddle tops, we can get burner tops that are made for that type of stovetop application that would boil water just as quickly as gas would, if that's our selection. And we also have the ability to do a combo unit on the right. Would be a gas-fired unit with dual oven unit, griddle top, and 4 burners. If we stay with gas, we probably propose 2 of the units that you see on the right. One would be all burners, that'd be 8 burners, And the second unit would be a split unit like this, where we get 4 more burners and a griddle top. That would also give you 4 ovens in place of the current 3. If we go with an all-electric option, we'd be recommending 2 of the units like you see on the left, which would be 12 burners, and then the third unit would be a griddle top, so that people that want to do pancake feeds and, you know, things like that would still have a griddle top, hamburgers, bacon, things like that, hash browns. So, we're asking that you either confirm the prior direction and probably the need for some additional funding down the road, or this would be our chance as part of the budget adoption to reconsider. Our estimate is that if we went with a revised option of back to all electric, that we could probably save approximately half of the current $60,000 budget, because it basically would be plug and play. Would be in-kind replacing units. The electrical's good. That could trigger some fire department reviews. They're in the process of inspecting our various city facilities, but because we would not trigger a building permit up front, it would not be an immediate review of a code requirement upgrade. So we just have a future potential that they would ask us to look at the fire and hood systems, but because of the in-kind electric for electric, same BTU, same wattage, we wouldn't have to do any further modifications. So we would look to council to either affirm your prior direction or give us revised direction.
Well, I say that we go back to electric. And the boiling water was the big thing, and, you know, just to put in gas for an event that, some events, is about 4 events that happen a year that require boiling water. And the fact that it's going to really cost a lot of big bucks to bring in the piping and all that stuff for the gas. And like you said, there's so much maintenance that probably needs to be done on Littleton that I think that we should just go back and, as Lori says, keep an eye on the budget and go back to electric. That's my thought.
Yeah, you know, I was one of the people that really thought we needed to move toward gas and was really in favor of the moving toward gas, but with all of the challenges that it's created, I've come to believe it's not a good idea. Steve, would it be possible to buy 2 of the 6 burner units and continue to use the existing grill? One of the units that we have now is the existing grill top. And we'll have it.
That's a possibility. It'd sort of be like having 2 different brands of washer and dryer, and you know, from an aesthetic standpoint, it wouldn't be ideal, but we do have a functioning grill top that doesn't get what we take the best of the 3 because they're identical units. That would be another option to save additional funding. They are 30-plus years old. I don't have a problem at all with replacing 30-year-old stoves. Some of the handles are falling off. Getting them calibrated is starting to cost us operating monies to keep them satisfactory. It is a rental facility.
So your recommendation would be all 3 units?
I would think, if you ask me personally, you know, what would I do if it was my money? I would go with the all-electric, but I would go with 3 units. That would cut the budget in half and give us some reliable things to market the rental facility.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that rentals are up. It looks like.
Yeah, those are book
the
rentals. I don't know how many rentals drop off through the year, but it is up a little.
Well, it looks like it's up over previous year. I mean, we have, the highest year we had was 9. It looks like this year we have 19 that are booked that are going to be paid. I mean, in the past, it just seems like it was just used for free. We weren't getting very many paid events. That would be nice to be paid events. It would be nice to be able to have a facility they could use. So I agree with Mary Lou.
Okay. Barbara, did you?
I'm fine with electric.
Well, I have to agree with both. The electric idea, both inexpensive and less of a hazard as far as safety is concerned. My biggest concern with gas when you have any type of rental is that all it takes is one pilot light going out and you've got a little bomb waiting there. And I know I look at the dark side of things when it comes to stuff like that, but I really don't want to see an explosion over there. I side with the idea of electric as well.
We have a motion.
I'm looking for a motion.
Oh, I move that we go to, back to electric.
Yeah. Okay.
And buy all three.
Two of the units with 6 burners each and 1 for
Correct.
Okay.
That's Mr. Winkler,
Recommend.
described and recommended.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Yep.
Oh, here's Al.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. We did have a speaker on this. It's been a rather interesting night. Well, come on up, Al. I'm sorry.
Al Baldwin, a concerned citizen of Galt and a member of the Character Coalition, and the character is getting better in Galt. I can see it already. I thought my biggest challenge tonight would be coming up here again and talking to Lori. But you know, I do remember gas, and I do hear what you're saying this time, and I think it's great. So, my idea was gas, no. Electric, yes. And you can save on money, you can buy extra ones, you can open up the place where you never kept track of what's cooked and not cooked in here and get a little bit easier survey of what's going on in this place. I remember years ago where they served drinks in there just off to the kitchen. I was in charge of the coffee. And every time I plugged it in, it only took 5 minutes, 10 minutes, very most. It was started, and then it would stop. Blow the fuse, circuit breaker. And we get a better system in on the circuit breakers, first of all, so we don't blow the coffees. That's just a small little thing that I'm asking for, not much, because you've all said you're electrically minded, or you want electric. And I would really like to see something like that upgraded. But this could be a great area to go to so that the Historical Society could start cooking spaghetti and make other great food products. We have a chef with the Historical Society named Ida Denier, and you may not know her, but her reputation is spread quite a bit. And she wants to cook at the Littleton so bad. And she's tried to get it for years and years and years. And I see in here that it said 4 weeks you'll have stoves. Hopefully that's good because it's in writing. And to get it completed, it'll be a lot quicker than what we've had in years in the past because they weren't priority. Well, this one here looks like it might be a priority. So I'm all for it. Electric, electric, electric. Let's do it. And by the way, your insurance might be less too. I don't know how you rate your insurance, but without gas, it might go down. So, a shocking thing. So I will let you go on that, and that's what I would suggest you do too. So you've all already voiced your opinion. This is great. We can start using Littleton again.
Thank you, Al. Okay, with a motion in a second, do we have any further discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. We have a 4-0 vote. So, and we also have the promise of 4 weeks, correct?
If I get my PO through the city manager's office, we'll get right on it.
Give them a break.
No
from the
pressure.
house stuff has to go, you know how that goes.
All right. Moving on to City Clerk's report. City Council meeting of August 2nd.
Okay, due to National Night Out being the same night, we would like you guys to consider either changing the time of the meeting for August 2nd or moving it to a different date. I have contacted Metro Cable. They're available to do the meeting August 2nd earlier in the day or August 3rd. August 1st is the problem for them.
You're gonna be retired by then, Lori.
Yeah, fine.
I don't care what the next date is. I don't have a problem with whenever.
I think it'd probably be good if we moved it earlier in the day. I don't like canceling it, and if we just change the time to earlier in the day, I'm good with that, if everybody else is.
Okay,
Is 2 o'clock okay then? Would that work for everybody?
Sure.
All right. So, You'll notice it as such, August 2nd, our council meeting will be at 2 p.m. Okay. Moving on to the next one, which is city council meetings of June 21st and July 5th.
It was brought to my attention that Mayor Cruz will be out of town on the June 21st meeting, and Councilmember Campion, Councilmember Powers will not be able to attend the meeting on July 5th. So our thought is to consolidate those two meetings to June 28th at the regular time of 7 p.m. We'd also like to, if you approve, continue this meeting, adjourn it to June 28th in case there's an ordinance that needs to be introduced that we were able to do it.
What do you mean continue this meeting?
Adjourned regular meeting to June 28th.
Well, we don't need to because we voted on everything, didn't we?
Right, but it's just a possibility.
So it's really just a technicality under the Brown Act that, since it's not one of our regular meeting dates, if you set a new meeting on June 28th, what we would do tonight is we would just adjourn this meeting to that particular date. And then when we convene again on June 28th, instead of calling it a special meeting, it would be called an adjourned regular meeting. It gives us more flexibility as it relates to what we can put on the calendar.
Okay.
That works. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so be it.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to comments by staff. Emily will give you first shot.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing further to add.
Chris?
First, I'd like to say I'm happy to be up here. I would also like to add that while we don't have any exciting restaurants in the pipeline, housing construction is strong. We just received 20 applications for new single-family buildings, permits from Elliott Homes for River Oaks 3, and all the other subdivisions are in various stages of development. So let's hope with those houses we can then attract those restaurants that we'd like to have.
Mr. Winkler?
Two quick announcements. For the month of May, we hit 32%, and our current water conservation mandate is only 29%. So keep up the good work, and we're working with the city manager's office on recommending under the brand new and improved state mandates where we're allowed to sort of weave our own rope on future conservation amounts subject to justifying our actions. That we'll probably be recommending the city go to stage 2, which is a little bit of a de-escalation, which would allow watering 3 days a week instead of the current 2, but this is not yet a formal announcement. We need to work through the city manager's office, but that is what we're currently thinking is likely to be the outcome, just to give you a sneak peek.
Paula?
Well, and the second thing.
Oh, you had to get that far.
I got a funny look from Donna. She knew there was no. I just got a text from Hawaii, Mr. Solis, who expresses his regret for not being here and congratulating us for finally moving on with the Littleton stove. So, Armando, if you're watching via the internet, apparently, time to turn over on the beach. Okay.
Rough crowd. Paula? Amy, you've been quiet tonight. Anything? Nothing. You got to turn it on first.
Actually, I'd like to share that of the last 9 days at the public pool, we've been at capacity 8 of those 9 days. And we usually are only at capacity once a year.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Monica.
It must be that heat wave, that 104.
Oh, man.
10.
Chief Stockman.
This week, we've had an amazing week at the police department, specifically with our juvenile diversion program. We had 2 graduates this week, 1 last week. These young men and women that are going through this program all seemed to understand what they did and understand the amazing second chance they have at, and Officer Coelho did just an amazing job of running that program. So I just want to say publicly thanking her for all of her efforts. Secondly, on June 15th at 7 o'clock at the police department, we have our speaker series, and this one is actually Meet the Chief, so it'll be a public meeting where not much of an agenda, more of the ability for citizens to come in and ask any question that they'd like to of the police department. So.
Are you not gonna mention the snakes in Galt?
You beat me to it.
I could, but I thought it was pretty clear last night when they asked me why we didn't have snakes last year, and we had 3 reports of snakes this year. My comment was pretty simple. I can't answer that. The only one that can answer why the snakes went into the backyard, you'd have to ask the snakes. So.
Do you have any update on Frida?
And Frida's doing well. She is recovering nicely. She has a 2-month stay in the vet's office, but she is doing really well. Amazing social animal, and the public outcry has just been absolutely amazing. We've gotten reports or concerned citizens from around the United States, and I know that story aired on pretty much every major news source throughout the United States. So, again, Officer Coelho, Officer Hill, both did an amazing job.
No, we didn't locate the family, the owner.
We've had 25 people say that they've lost their German Shepherd, but so far nobody has been able to prove that that is their dog. So.
Wow. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I have a few updates. This morning, the Chamber of Commerce recognized the Galt Market as Business of the Month, and we want to thank the Chamber for that. It's very appreciative. Our staff out there, worked very hard in partnership and working with the Chamber and putting on the Strawberry Festival and different events. So it was a busy day for the market today as well when everybody's out there. Had an opportunity to meet with Supervisor Natoli earlier this week with Chief Sockman and Mr. Winkler. A couple items that we talked about is some funding for city streets, or not city streets, but county roads adjacent to the city. And Supervisor Natoli is taking a look at that. We provided them some I guess streets that are within a priority, that we see. So he's going to bring that back to the county staff to take a look at, some adjacent streets to our city for overlays. We also spoke with him about our animal control ordinance, and he has some dollars that he could provide us in kind of boosting up our animal control. And our contract that the county is operating the animal control services for us. Within that, there's some our police departments are the first responders, typically to animal control, and so there's maybe some tools and equipment that our police department could utilize to assist officers before county animal control could respond. Councilmember Powers also joined us in some of that conversation with a discussion on some partnerships with a nonprofit that may address some animal service issues, and that is part of our contract, our animal control contract. So we're having that discussion, and hopefully I can come back to the council with some additional updates in the next month or so on that. The other meeting I had this last week was with the superintendents of our school districts, Karen Chower and Elizabeth Coffin. We traveled down to Stockton to meet with Dr. Hart of Delta College. We had a very productive and good meetings, kind of talk about the future of the college located on Liberty Road, what kind of curriculum that they may provide, some partnerships that the high school could provide the college district at this time with possibly doing some classes. So we had kind of opening discussions. Earlier today, Steve Rudolph had some conversation and like to kind of give an update on some future meetings of the Liberty school project.
So I talked to the project manager for the North County campus project earlier today, and what she informed me is that on July 21st, Thursday, the college district is going to do an all-day workshop with their board relating to the Liberty Road site. They're going to do a site visit in the morning, then have lunch, and then they're going to have an afternoon workshop session with their board to talk about all of the remaining issues relating to the Liberty Road site. It's going to be that's a Thursday, which is good because oftentimes their meetings do conflict with city council meetings, and also it's an afternoon meeting, so it's going to be really important to have some community presence at that meeting, just to reinforce to the community college district the continued importance of this project to the Galt community. So again, that's July 21st, an all-day session. Their agenda should be up the week on their website the week before. The project manager also indicated to me that at that meeting on July 21st, they're not going to take any action, but they are setting this item for action by the board at their August 16th regular board meeting, and that is a Tuesday evening. It does conflict with a city council meeting, so we are going to be coming back to the council at a future meeting and asking for a change in the date of that regular city council meeting so that we can have full support and attendance at that very important August 16th meeting, where hopefully they will make the decision to move forward with the development of the Liberty Road site.
And I do have one more item. Chief Sockman whispered in my ear. He and I had an opportunity to attend couples training this last week. We POST, which is Police Officers Standards and Training, puts on a workshop. It was a 2.5-day workshop on specifically for city managers and police chiefs to attend. We had 5 cities representatives, and I thought it was really fabulous format. It was more of a discussion group where we talked about different I guess processes and procedures and operations between the police department and the city manager's office. I found the discussions very interesting. Learned a lot. Chief and I had a lot of time to spend together and talk about our city and our operations, and it was very beneficial for both of us. And,
all I want to say, it was great couples therapy, and the time that we had a chance to get away from the office, sit down, eat lunch, and just talk about what it is that he expects of me, and some of the challenges. I have a much greater understanding about city management, and I realize that he has a tough job, and so I don't envy him.
Thank you. Mr. Roth?
We're only going to worry if they start having date night.
Yeah, really.
But, Mr. Mayor, I just want to remind you that we will be adjourning specifically to June 28th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Got a note.
Well, I want to tell the chief that you have a tough job, too. There's some tough jobs out there, that's for sure. I just wanted to say that I went to the dedication of the garden to Barbara, and it was a very nice ceremony, a beautiful plaque out there in her honor. She worked really hard for it. I hadn't been there in a long time, and I am amazed at all the stuff that's there. I really thought all those fruit trees all around the edge of it was really nice. I just expected to see vegetables. So when I went in there and saw all those trees coming to fruition, and the ones for butterflies and for hummingbirds, I went home and started looking through a booklet to see what I could put in my yard to get some of those little critters buzzing around. But it was a very nice time and well deserved.
Awesome.
I'd just like to say congratulations to our graduates from Liberty Ranch, and Estelita and Galt High School this week. And congratulations to Councilman Campion, who's not with us tonight because his family has a new addition.
Yay. A grandson.
A grandson.
Grandson.
Yeah.
Good clarification on that one. Vice Mayor Payne.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the department heads that came out to the dedication. Steve didn't say anything about using too much water, so I'm not in trouble over water. And I appreciate the city manager for being the MC. Did a really good job. And it was really good to see Councilman Powers out there. It was special. And having the mayor out there also, as well as Donatello. It was a really nice day. And thank you guys for giving up your lunch hour and come on out to the garden.
Awesome. I think I'll truncate this a little bit on mine. I don't want to spend a large amount of time on this. I was going to have a report to council as far as the trip to D.C. We met with several different members of the D.C. staff out there, starting with the Economic Development Administration. Primary idea behind that one is to helping us as much as possible with the expansion of our industrial area, as well as any help they could give us for the public safety training facility. Bad news, Chief, on that one. They've got an interesting formula. If it doesn't substantially enhance jobs or substantially prevent jobs from being lost, then they're not really leaning that direction. But that's the bad news from them. We'll get to the good news on that one. As far as the industrial area, they'd really like to see us, they're willing to step up. They'd like to see us find someone who would step up and start the building out there. That shows an investment and a chance for increased employment, and that's when they would step up and take care of it. And they did emphasize we need to make sure we have a good, strong community economic development. And I told her we have a strong SEDS and we're going to keep maintaining it. So that's where we go on that particular area. The other portion of it was with Senator Feinstein's office, and it was pretty much the same thing with one exception. They were really impressed with the fact that as a small community, we're looking into exploring the wastewater recycling idea, which was the purple piping, starting out with the Eastview project. And they gave us quite a few ideas as far as where we could get additional monies to help out with that. They're willing to step up something new and exciting, and I mean that facetiously, coming from our electeds in D.C. They no longer give letters of recommendation, they're just letters of support. So I guess it's a new world out there. They're not going to recommend something, but they'll support what we're doing. I think it's just semantics. The last one was with Representative Jerry McNerney's office. Same areas covered. His representative was more interested in our gun facility, and we've got a few leads out there that may help us as far as continued expansion for the range and for the facility itself. They were extremely impressed with the idea of us possibly making it a secondary emergency operations center. So something to be aware of. That's all we have on that one. And if there's nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting to June 28th. Got it right.